pretty devastated, aren't we?
Oh, I want a rematch now.
So, how about that announcement in Hades 2? And I was shocked about that as well. Mainly because Supergiant never does sequels, so they might have some wild shit planned for Hades 2. So it got me back in the mood to play more of Hades the original. So that's the video back from break. Without further ado, let's begin. For a quick recap, Hades was released on early access via the Epic Games Store the night of its reveal/announcement during the 2018 Game Awards, followed by a release onto Steam Early Access in 2019, and finally, a full 1.0 in Nintendo Switch release. I do think that this is a lot for a smaller independent studio to commit to due to the open nature of early access development, as well as the later stages of said development being completed remotely due to COVID-19. You'd be correct. However, these don't detract from the fact that Hades is both my current favorite game made by Supergiant, as well as the best game of 2020 that is not named Doom Eternal. The main conceit of Hades is that you play as Zagreus, Prince of the Underworld and the son of the titular god of the dead, who's wonderfully and grumpily voiced by Logan Cunningham in probably his best performance to date. For reasons that aren't initially explained and still won't be here because of spoilers, Zagreus decides to escape from the underworld and find answers about his family. The story, while not as much of an emotional gut punch as either Transistor or Pyre, still proves to be an entertaining fable about family and how far you're willing to go to maintain and even repair those relationships. The characters in this yarn encompass various individuals from Greek myths, ranging from the obvious, like the majority of the Olympians on display, to the lesser-known players like Zagreus himself and Primordial Chaos, the originator of all existence and non-binary icon. And before anyone says anything, all characters who converse with or even mention Chaos use they-them pronouns in reference to the character. This is all well and good, but let's move on to the actual video game. Hades is a roguelike action RPG in which all of your runs, be they successes or, more often than not, failures, are framed as Prince Zag's various escape attempts to get to the surface. You start off in the pits of Tartarus, and from there you go to the flaming rivers of Asphodel, the idyllic fields of Elysium, and finally, a Temple of Styx near the surface. All chambers leading up to each area's final boss encounter are procedurally generated with special events with characters residing in the underworld and shops run by Charon sprinkled in. The randomization is justified by way of Daedalus being commissioned by Hades to renovate the underworld sections beyond Tartarus, with Tartarus itself shifting around in order to keep prisoners from escaping. I love how this world building that's used to explain mechanics is treated as being a part of how the underworld works and all the characters treated as such. This extends to a lot of other mechanics as well, the most obvious being the various weapons and powers you get while on runs being boons and blessings from gods and primordial chaos, respectively. There are 10 boon types that can all change your approaches to runs dramatically. Athena is focused on reflecting damage and damage resistances. Ares is focused on damage buffs and a delayed damaged curse called Doom. Aphrodite weakens enemies. She makes them weak in the knees, I see what they did there. Dionysus grants poisons with booze and affects health gain. Poseidon knocks enemies back with waves. Hermes focuses on going really heckin' fast. Artemis is all about those juicy critical hits. I don't need to explain what Zeus does. And Demeter is, interestingly enough, framed in the context of a winter goddess, giving you the power to slow and freeze enemies solid and even shatter them. Primordial Chaos is the odd god out, focusing more so on adding a risk-reward dynamic to each of the runs by giving you a debuff that actively makes the next few combat encounters more dangerous by, like, using health by attacking, more enemies fought, reduced dash distances, etc., in exchange for making another part of your kit significantly more powerful for the rest of the run. All these combine and interact with each other in incredibly interesting and powerful ways, make for some cool builds, and can be combined to create duo boons, powerful buffs that highlight your strengths. My personal favorite is Merciful End, which makes it so that abilities you deflect with your Athena boons immediately activate Ares' Doom Curse. It's pretty goddamn awesome. There's also the Infernal Arms, weapons used by the Olympians to slay the Titans and your primary tools in aiding for your escape. You initially start off with just the Stygian Blade, but as time goes on, you gain access to other weapons, including Varatha, the Eternal Spear, Aegis, the Shield of Chaos, you can throw it Captain America style too, Coronat, the Heart-Seeking Bow, the Twin Fists of Malphon, and Exegriff, the Adamant Realm. It's basically a railgun as the weapons being used in this footage. All can be upgraded and augmented to suit your playstyle. My go-tos are the Spear with the Hades aspect, ironic I know, which adds the Punishing Sweep debuff, which means that enemies hit with the spear's fully charged spin attack take increased damage, and the Hera aspect of the bow, which loads your casted projectile into your next attack, which which causes it to explode and use its effect on impact. And considering some of the effects those cast abilities have when augmented, it's fucking ridiculous. These with boons all add up to make you feel incredibly powerful, to the point where even if a build is less than optimal, you can still make it through a run and not feel like you've been shafted by bad RNG. The game also has all the upgrades and progression systems that you'd expect from a roguelike. The main twists are reserved for after you finish your first successful escape attempt, these being the continuation of the game's story and the Pact of Punishment. Continuation of the main story is a continuation of the main story, and that should be enough motivation for anyone who likes Supergiant stuff. But the Pact of Punishment is for you roguelike enjoyers like myself. The Pact is a bounty system that augments each run to make it more challenging in exchange for better rewards. These range from standard things like enemies dealing more damage and you having less health per rank, to more drastic measures like bosses gaining new abilities or making it so you only have a set amount of time to escape each section of the underworld. It's a flexible system and it goes a long way to keep things from going stale. Lastly, I want to talk about the art and music. They continue to be up to Supergiant standard, which is to say they are goddamn incredible. I think I've noticed when talking to a friend about the art and the character designs is that there's a surprising amount of Hindi influence on a lot of the architecture and aesthetics across the board, which is apt when you consider the fact that the Greeks were a seafaring society. Supergiant is also to be commended for, and I quote myself here, creating the most bangable interpretation of the Greek pantheon to date. And that is saying something. Sole exception is Chaos, who looks more like the final boss in a Final Fantasy game. Unless you're into that sort of thing. I won't judge you. And what can I say about the music? It's once again done by Darren Korb, so you can already assume correctly that there's a baseline of quality. But because Hades is inherently much more action-oriented than Supergiant's past works, it proves that Mr. Korb can, in fact, go fucking hard, as the kids say. Pardon the French there. Each track has a slower, more low-key background version that kicks into high gear once the action starts. It's a trick that, while already established by Patron Saint going hard to Mick Gordon, is still one of my favorite tricks that game music can use to express moods in an environment. The tracks used in the boss fights in particular go hard and never stop, never stopping. Special shoutouts go to the PainfulWay, The Exalted, and the track that plays when you fight dear old dad, God of the Dead, in particular, for reminding me that even though I've been a fan of his for over a decade at this point, the Korb can still surprise me. Hell, this soundtrack is so good that I listened to it when I originally wrote this. That's how good it was! At the end of the day, what Supergiant's created has quickly become my favorite game of theirs to date. It shows that early access can't be done in a way that feels open and honest, and as a result, has made a game that can only be achieved through such a method. Their usual blend of strong art direction, storytelling, and gameplay is bolstered by a style that is so thoroughly outside of their wheelhouse that it loops back around to being something that you're amazed that they hadn't done sooner. If you're a fan of Supergiant, hell, this is an easy sell. But if you like roguelikes, I strongly recommend you taking a trip to the underworld for what is quite possibly one of the best gaming experiences of the last couple of years. I highly recommend it. And that would be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like it if you did. Don't forget to also share it if you really liked it. And also, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.